you want to be successful? Do you want to grow your business? Do you want to dominate the day? Then you're going to need big skip energy. Amy, Franko, welcome to the Big Skip Energy Podcast. How you doing?
I am great. And I have to say how much I love the title of your podcast, the Big Skip Energy Podcast. Like you're already like you're setting the stage for this conversation.
That's right.
We're gonna have to live up to it.
Yeah, we got to bring it. We got to bring it in sales every single day.
That's right.
Right. So listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Not too much of a Thanksgiving hangover for you. If you would, please just take a moment for any listeners that are not familiar with you. Introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are, what you're all about.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it is good to have you all here with us, listening, watching, wherever you happen to be in the world. I'm Amy Franko, and I got my start in technology. So for the first 10 years of my professional selling career, I worked for companies like IBM and Lenovo, and I was a quota-carrying salesperson. And I sold personal computing hardware into a variety of industries, enterprise, education, small and mid-sized business. So it was really kind of a good, well-rounded sales, B2B sales experience. And then almost 18 years ago, I took a big pivot into entrepreneurship, started my own organization that started as a learning and development organization. And it still is in its spirit, but it has morphed and changed over the years. And what it looks like today is I work mostly with mid-market CEOs, sales leaders in a few industries. Professional services is one where I spend a lot of time, but in a variety of others as well. And I work with those leaders on everything sales related. So I call it the 3 S's of sales: sales strategy, sales skill development for individuals and leaders, and then also the sales structures that support an organization. So that's what I get to work on every day. Love it.
Very good. Very cool. Very cool. And you are also the author of
The Modern Seller.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. So very cool. And, we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. But first, because this one is timely for me personally, I just made the announcement yesterday that I resigned from my quote unquote job to pursue my company's growth and, journey going forward for sales and business development in the financial
Very exciting
mortgage space. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's going to be a wild ride, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, I can relate to that. And this might be another conversation for another day, but there's nothing quite like picking up the phone or being in a Zoom meeting and resigning your job to jump into a new adventure. I did the same thing 18 years ago. I can totally relate. Maybe that's another conversation for another day.
It definitely is. So, Amy, before we move on to other things, I always like to ask people who have gone through the similar essentially journey that you have, going from corporate America to going out on your own and taking that plunge. What was the tipping point or the main push that led you to finally make that big change?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you 2 answers to that question. The first is I think it's really just always been a part of who I am, just kind of part of my DNA. Yeah. I always knew that I would start something or lead something, even though I had really no idea what that would be.
Sure.
So I think that's really I always knew I would do it. It just was finding the right opportunity. But one of the things that I learned really early on that I didn't realize what would happen when I stepped into that is, having been so used to working for a large organization, how much of my identity, I'll call it, was wrapped up in working for a large organization or the logo on the business card.
Yeah.
And so when
being a company woman or man. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So when I moved from that into the space of entrepreneurship, and probably a lot of our listeners can relate to this, you move from selling a company's products or services to selling yourself. And that's a really big mental shift, and part of what I wrote about in The Modern Seller. What is that shift from representing somebody else to representing yourselves, and the changes that you have to take on personal development wise to just step into that next version of myself.
And tell me about it.
Probably one of my biggest takeaways.
Yeah, for sure. So The Modern Seller, it's a great read, but what would you say? And there may not have been one. What was the defining moment that really shaped your sales philosophy?
As I think back on my career, I wrote a little bit about this in the book, kind of some of those common threads.
Mm,
For myself, working for a really large organization like IBM and Lenovo, I sold pretty much what was you'd consider it a commodity product.
sure, which is almost all sellers now.
Personal computing hardware and services, which, a lot of organizations sell. And that landscape has gotten even more complicated in the
Yeah.
time since I've been there. But I would say for me, the turning point was realizing that there was so much opportunity in my territory
Hmm.
that I really had to start thinking differently about which types of customers were the right fit for what I wanted to bring. So, for
Hmm.
example, we would go after really big requests for proposals, RFPs,
Hmm.
and some of it had strategic merit to it. But we were often in a position where we were never going to be the lowest price. And that ended up being a lot of bidding war type of sales scenarios. I had to change my thinking and actually got into more in this point in time mobile computing because more organizations and especially education they wanted to go in that direction and
Mm.
we were really well positioned to bring the whole solution to a customer. Making that change and pursuing those types of customers actually helped me make my quota and make it more profitably than some of the other types of sales that I was pursuing. So I really had to
Yeah.
change my own thinking and change the way that I approached my territory.
Well, I love that. So, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that for you, like one of the biggest things that has always shaped the way you've approached sales is being sure that the customer or your prospect is the best fit for you. Not everybody is a perfect fit, so don't waste your time on that.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes when you're working for somebody else, there's a very real scenario that you do pursue things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily choose to pursue,
Right,
but
right.
from an organizational standpoint, you do that. So I do want to acknowledge that. But by and large, when you control your territory, when I write about being entrepreneurial in the modern seller, when you take control of your territory and you look at your best opportunities and your biggest risks,
Mhm.
figuring out your best opportunities to your point, who are my best customers?
Yeah.
Who are going to be my most profitable customers? What customers buy value? Because that's what we were selling. It was a
Yeah.
value oriented sale. And where can I spend more time with those people and less time on opportunities that have just a much lower odds of winning?
Okay. So, most of the listeners in this show are going to be mortgage originators, realtors, commercial bankers, that kind of thing. And I'm talking about building like referral relationships here more than anything else. There's a lot of pressure for, especially ones that may be newer, just starting out, whatever. Go out there and try and partner with everybody instead of trying to focus on the best fit for you as far as who you work best with, right? What are some of the most, or I guess, what are some of the best tips that you could give to somebody to say, hey, look, here's what you need to do to try to avoid that? Because
Yeah.
you're going to be spinning your wheels a lot of time when you can be putting those efforts towards something else.
Yeah. And to be fair, if somebody is starting out, there is a little bit of that,
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's pressure.
pursuing quantity, right?
Yeah,
And just
right.
and just having to get the conversations and get the proverbial at bats, if you will,
Yeah.
to be able to build your book of business as you grow. And for those who are more experienced, these are always great refreshers
Hmm.
on the areas that we could be paying attention to. So if I were to offer up a couple of ideas or strategies there, the first is to take a look at a couple of different avenues. My first avenue is always most of my business is referral or introduction based business.
Hmm.
Almost all of my business comes because somebody knew somebody who recommended that they talk to me. So if that's your business and that's the way that you operate your territory or your book of business, look at your clients first. A, for where there's expansion within those clients, because
Yes.
our clients are also our prospects, right?
Hmm.
And then secondly, I'm looking for where might I find other clients that are like the ones I like to work with. They probably know people that can introduce me. And I always look for those types of introductions. Or, and this idea really originated with Bryn Tillman on the LinkedIn side of
Hmm.
things, looking at who's connected to the
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
that you
for sure.
know and leveraging that as a strategy to
Mm.
meet new people. So those are some of the avenues that I would pursue. And the reason I recommend pursuing them is you have a better odds of quality out of the gate
Yeah.
versus quantity of like the unknown entities of who you might be looking to talk to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, Amy, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about some entrepreneurship, kind of like we did on the pre-podcast chat here.
Yeah.
So, we're going into a new year, right? And in our line of work, it's always a time for gearing up, preparing, getting that kind of thing done. In my industry, mortgage banking, that kind of thing, we're still in kind of a weird time. We've got limited inventory, slightly higher rates. It's just people are struggling to get things. And it's making it difficult for them to plan because there's a lot of uncertainty going forward. So, if you would share your insight about strategies to help not compensate for it, but navigate those waters.
Yeah. And do times ever get unweird? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it
They're
seems to
just
be always
they're just a
something,
different
right?
kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, different kinds of problems. So yes. So first of all, kind of in the spirit of the title of this podcast being the Big Skip Energy
Yeah.
Podcast, I would say the first thing is to make the conscious decision and to keep making the decision that outside forces aren't going to prevent you from putting forth the right effort.
Mm.
Because when we let outside forces get inside our head too much, Jen Blunt calls it living rent free in your
Yep,
head,
that's right.
which I love.
Let him live
If,
rent free.
if outside forces are living rent free in your head, they're going to stop you
Yeah.
more than anything else from
Mm.
doing the work that needs to be done. So I'd say first and foremost, and I'll say, some times of the year, that's a daily decision that we have to make and just keep that in our sphere of awareness about the way in which we're showing up personally. So,
Yeah.
so outside of that, some other tactical things to be thinking about. I like to think about how can I help my clients to be more successful? So if
Mhm.
we use that as a North Star, depending on, you're in commercial real estate, you're originating a mortgage, there are absolutely realities of the industries that you're facing. That goes without saying. But if I think about helping my clients as a North Star, or you think about that, can you get in front of your best clients or prospective clients and figure out how to give them ideas to help them make their business better, even if it doesn't in that moment lead to them signing on the dotted line for a mortgage or some kind
Mhm.
of commercial real estate transaction? That is a different way of thinking. It's not immediate, but it is a way to stay in front of your best clients, your best prospective clients, because you're coming with the intention of how do I help you make your business better? So I would offer that up as a potential approach.
Yeah.
And then more strategically, like I'd say big picture for planning for next year, have that in your business plan.
Mm.
Every seller should have their own personal business plan outside of whatever sales goals they've been assigned by their
Oh, yeah.
organization.
You have to do that. Whether you're self-employed or not, doesn't matter. You should always have your own personal goals. That's a must.
It is a must, but it's not always obvious, right?
It's not
It
obvious, but like because think about it, you're getting hammered constantly with that
Mhm.
by your sales manager, your company. Like you got to meet quota, you got to do this, got to do this. Well, yeah, but but at the same time, there's a human behind that has to do certain things before they can get there. Yeah, so it's like driving around in the dark with the lights off. Sometimes you may get there, you may not, but you got to eventually plan a course. Yeah, very cool. I really like that. It's almost you know especially in my world where you've got mortgage originators that oftentimes partner with realtors or financial advisors, whatever the case may be, as referral partnerships going back and forth. A lot of times those people are sharing the same struggles that you are as a seller. And so that collaboration oftentimes leads to more solutions. Now, listen, I love bringing solutions to problems and strategies of things that are that are off in the distance. That kind of thing is great. And I know Anthony Enarino would be, kind of ticked about me saying this, but sometimes you just don't know the answer. And so collaboration, I think, can also breed a lot of those answers together. And I think that also serves to strengthen those referral relationships. Do you agree with that or no?
I do agree with that. And as you think about, so if we like use a banker as an example, and maybe they have partners with partnerships or referral relationships with real estate agents,
Mhm.
being able to combine forces if you will, where it makes sense
Yeah.
to be in front of the same types of prospective clients, or you might even to the degree that it makes sense and it's not competitive, is sharing client relationships and
Mhm.
bringing your current clients together for those types of conversations. One of the trends that I'm seeing a lot of is people are coming back together, but they're coming back together in, I'd say, smaller spaces
Yeah.
and in smaller groups and conversations.
Mhm.
So if you're a banker, you have a couple of great real estate relationships, you can curate your own type of event where you bring people together,
Yeah.
where you have clients and prospective clients, and you put together an event that's educational in nature and
Yeah.
allows other people the opportunity to network. How
Mhm.
many of our CEOs within our clients really have the opportunity to network with one another, or business leaders having the opportunity to network with one another?
Yeah.
You provide that type of space for that to happen. You are not only you're curating relationships, but you're the connector of all of
Yeah,
that.
you're
And
connected
those
to
leaders look at you
learn and
differently.
facilitate others learning. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
great, it's a win. So,
Yeah.
going back just to kind of because it is, you know, obviously the time of year when someone's sitting down, let's say that they have never done business planning before. All right. Yeah. Just give me like two or three things that you say, hey, look, no matter what else you do, be sure that when you're sitting down and to do your map for success for 2025, it includes one, two, and three. What are those two or three items for you?
Yes, absolutely. And before I forget to mention this, what
Yeah.
I can provide to you for the show notes is I have a business planning template, sales planning
I
template.
like it.
So I'll share that with you so that if people
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to dig
yeah. We'll
into
put it in
that
the notes
further,
for sure.
yeah, they can get that. But and it has several categories, but probably two or three that I would highlight. The first, and this might sound a little obvious, but I think it's really important, knowing your revenue goal and your profit goal and
Mhm.
having it documented outside of what's documented in, your buyer management team or in your
Mhm.
organization. When you have that in front of you all the time, that is what helps to trigger the right activities.
Yeah.
So knowing those numbers becomes really important. Outside of that, I'm always going to plan for what are my top like target clients I want to maintain and grow.
Mhm.
What are my prospective target clients that I want to be building relationships with? And I'm also going to put together it's almost like I want to call it like an event plan, for lack of a
Mhm.
better phrase at the moment, where I'm going to plan for how do I bring these people together to get more leverage out of
Yes.
my sales activities and also to bring them together for more networking. That might be your referral relationships.
Yeah,
That
it
might
could be a
be
number of
hosting
things.
something, lots of different ways to get to that end game. But almost think about it as your strategic events for the year to help you
Mhm.
leverage your sales time.
Yeah, for sure. Those are great tips. I love that. All right. As we kind of start drawing down to a close, I've got some like random questions to ask you. So it's going to be, just off the wall stuff about sales. So first, the first one I want is you want you to answer is for those people not in sales, what is something that you wish that they understood about selling?
I would say that sales at its heart is helping my clients to improve their businesses.
Hmm.
When I think about what any approach that I have with a client or prospective client, my intention, and I set this intention, is how can I help that person in that interaction right now today?
Yeah.
That is really at its core what sales is. And when people live that in the right way, that's why sales is such a vital part of any organization.
It is. It is.
Sales is the fuel of an organization. And if I can help my clients' sales teams be more fuel and
Mhm.
perform, that helps the organization to be healthier.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people that aren't in sales need to understand is that the point of sales is to actually be helpful. It's not just to make it. We make money by doing our job as best we can, and so that's unfortunately one of the kind of obstacles that a lot of people have to get through. But if you're doing it right, it doesn't even cross the prospect's mind a lot of times. So
Yeah.
that's something else to consider. All right, here's another random off the wall question: what's a piece of advice or sales strategy that you disagreed with early on in your career, but now as a more seasoned sales trainer, you kind of adapted it and said, you know what, maybe that was right.
That's a really good question.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So something that maybe I disagreed with in the past,
Yeah.
but
But now you
as
kind of
my
adopted it.
career
Yeah.
has evolved, that I've kind of come around to see that point. I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to kind of answer that question in both ways. So
Okay.
having worked at organizations like IBM and Lenovo, there's a lot of what I'll call classic training in solution
Hmm.
selling, and lots of training and skill development opportunity in solution selling. And many times what we are trained to do, and a lot of organizations do this, is when you're competing, you want to compete like for like. Because if you're competing like for like, you're not overstepping something and potentially causing the prospect or the customer to not choose you
Yeah.
because you didn't spec it appropriately.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the kind of classic solution selling.
Hmm.
I've evolved my thinking where I really believe in our roles as sellers. Our job is to uneven the playing field.
Mm.
We need to purposefully look different so that we get our clients and prospects thinking differently. Because otherwise, we look like everybody else. And then the common denominator becomes price.
Price. Yeah.
But to kind of come back around to your question, where my thinking, it evolves depending on the client's business. There
Mm.
are going to be some situations where you have to answer the thing to spec because you need to get to the next round of something. And you have to think about your goal or the ambition for that particular scenario.
Okay.
But you also have to be thoughtful and not just fall into that trap and
Point.
figure out very consciously where you want to look and be different
Mm.
so that you rise above the noise of everybody else looking the same.
Very good. That's great. See, perfect. You could do it. You got it done. See. All right. Now, these are these next two questions are very deep. All right. So prepare yourself. Now,
All right. Do I need a minute?
are you a Christmas decorations before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving lady?
After Thanksgiving and sometimes the week before Christmas.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's basically we're going to get it done sometime before the actual holiday comes. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Very
But
good.
we do bake and decorate Christmas cookies. We make a whole weekend out of it.
Yeah.
So that's 2 weeks before Christmas. So that's like an annual tradition with our whole family. So that absolutely gets done.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So eggnog, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Bonfire, s'mores kind or no, or not at all. Keep the smoke away from me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I didn't share this, but I volunteer for the Girl
Yeah, you're
Scouts.
welcome. I gave you that
And
on purpose.
right. So if I answered no to that question, that might challenge my core as a Girl Scout. So yes, absolutely.
Very good. All right. So at Christmas, ham or
Turkey for me.
turkey for you? Oh man, see,
Yes.
Christmas, I'm a ham guy. Okay. All
Can
right.
well, if you were to ask that question of my husband, his answer would be brisket.
Ooh, that's strong.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, all right. So for New Year's Eve, go out and party, or you're in bed before midnight.
Oh, we go out. We kind of split the difference. We have our old neighborhood. We have not lived there in probably about 10 years, but we still go back to our old neighborhood. Our neighbors throw a party every New Year's Eve. We watch football, we play games, and so it's a party, but I'm not like a 3 a.m. kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
gal.
You're not gonna go like throw down until the sun comes back up. Yeah, good.
No,
Yeah,
no.
those days are long past me. So.
Nothing really good happens after midnight anyway. So
Especially at our age. But all right, Amy. So if my listeners want to learn more about you, where can they go? What should they do?
two places. First is LinkedIn, Amy Franko on LinkedIn. Please let me know that you heard me on Skip's podcast and we can connect there. And then secondly, feel free to visit franko.com and we'll get that sales planning template in the show notes for you.
Perfect. I love it. Amy, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me and the listeners today.
Thank you for having me.